Okay, so it's been a little bit of a week. Kind of over it. And it's just kind of amazing how quickly things can get out of control with just a little malfunction with your boundaries, right? So I mentioned before that, I had a friend that kind of said some inappropriate things, some things that were borderline inappropriate, other things that were flat out inappropriate, and introduced a whole lot of wobble to my week, really. And the whole thing's just irritating the fuck out of me. So I guess I probably told him too much about what's been going on in my world, and I've been trying to share the whole healing process and focus on moving forward with that, sharing anything that could potentially be beneficial to other people that have dealt with similar things. And this person was kind of one of those, right? So we talked the other day, and he followed it up with something about not realizing that there'd been as much abuse, I guess, in my past that the stuff that I actually shared with him. So the conversation was, we were talking about the thing I mentioned on here where, back in August 2024, when my grandfather broke his leg, and then I was taking my grandma and my aunt to the hospital all the time. Of course, my mom was living there. There was this big whole ordeal because it was downtown, and don't pick the dog's fuzz just because I'm sitting here and can see it. That goes back with the picking grass yesterday, I guess, and I could hear that I was doing that for a while. So I'm not going to start picking the dog's fuzz, but there's a bunch of it that's loose, so he needs brush. But not try to focus over there, right? Try to focus here and on what I'm talking about. So we're having this conversation, and I told him about, the conversation with my grandmother where she had commented about she was surprised my mom hadn't gotten arrested. And I said that the specific thing that she was referring to was that there was a kid she was babysitting that she was spanking, if you will. And I said the thing with my mom was anytime she would end up going that route, it was pretty much a blind rage by the time she was, lashing out at me or my brother. And there's this one time she did it to the kid that she was babysitting, and his mom got pissed, obviously. And there was a big ordeal, and my mom was not able to continue babysitting after that. But it didn't do anything for me and my brother. We still had to live with her and everything. So, and then, I said that she was always the same way with us. And it was like, whenever she got around to doing that, it was the blind rage, and she was just like wailing as hard as she could. And I said at one point when she was doing that to my brother, the kid whose mom got pissed at her and ended the babysitting career thing, at one point had been the one to call her off of my brother when she was having one of those meltdowns and, wailing on him. This kid's mom intervened in that situation and calmed her down. But then, of course, when my mom ends up doing that to her kid, then, she takes her kid out of here, as well she should have. But then my grandma throws this thing out there with being surprised she didn't get arrested. And I've talked about a lot about how, to me, that just felt like the ultimate betrayal from my grandmother. It's like, because it was the admission that she knew something was going on, to the point that she was surprised that she hadn't gotten arrested for it. But yet at the same time, she also hadn't bothered to try to intervene in any kind of way when my brother and I were going through those situations, right? It's like, it didn't matter. We were her kids, and that was, just, like she had some kind of right to just like wail on us anytime she got really pissed for whatever reason. And, when my grandma threw that out there back in August, that was pretty much the end point of me having much connection with my grandmother. Because it was basically that. It was an acknowledgement that she knew there was a problem, and yet she didn't do anything about it. And I have been doing what I can to disconnect from my family. And of course, it's hard to do while I'm having to live with my parents at this point in time. But I also feel like part of that is so I can really get completely disconnected from the situation. And when I'm out of here, I am out of here and never have to deal with any of it again. But it is very difficult. But anyway, I was telling this guy that stuff, and then he said that he didn't realize there was as much abuse on that end as there had been. And then it shifted into this other thing of, I don't even know what I want to call it. Basically, the shift to inappropriate things. Like, because I opened up about something, that suddenly meant we're supposed to have some different kind of connection, right? And it's like, as I'm thinking about this now, it's like, this is why I haven't really connected with a whole lot of people in my lifetime. I have one friend in high school that always liked him, and he was a good friend. And there was one night we were waiting on my mom to finish up with something after some sporting event or something that she'd volunteered to help with. And I was venting to him, and something about venting is like, when I looked at him, it's like something had shifted and he was in this space of feeling sorry for me and let me fix it for you kind of a thing. And, kind of swooping in to be the hero and whatnot. It's like, all I wanted was basically to vent and to get it out of my system. And then it gets shifted into something else, and then it just becomes an awkward thing because it feels like they have interest in protecting me and shielding me from the crap with my family. But it's like, literally all I wanted to do at that point was just, it was a common ground piece with the guy this week. And he ended up knowing the kid that, that whole situation came about with. But I don't know. But it's like, it wasn't, that's the piece. It wasn't okay to just share something without it suddenly being because I shared this piece that suddenly meant that they were supposed to swoop in and somehow play the hero or whatever. It's like, I don't want somebody else to fix what's going on for me. It's just, I was trying to be in the space of just talking about something that had happened that, yeah, I mentioned it a lot on here, but it's not that I don't know. I don't fucking know. Which is more aggravating. Because, it's just that moment, the wobble gets thrown in, and then, somebody is catching feelings that shouldn't have been there to begin with. It was like, something about the vulnerability piece means that you're supposed to be in some kind of other connection, right? It's like, I don't want that. I just want to be able to talk about the thing and have the friendship be okay with that and still be a friendship and not need to be anything else. And then somehow it just like shifted in both those situations where it's like the other person wanted it to be something else. And it's like, fuck it. And it's like, that goes back to that piece of why it's been so hard to talk to anybody about anything, right? Because it's like just opening up about something, then, there are plenty that will judge me for it in some kind of way. Like, okay, if I were to, like most of my family, they won't know about any of this until something happens, and then they're like, wait, what happened, and why do people actually give a shit who she is now? And then when they see that I've been doing this whole thing the entire time, or all this time, then they'll be really pissed about it because I'm ruining the illusion that everybody else has bought into and has agreed to try to maintain, right? Anyway, there's the situation with the wobble, and then suddenly I find myself second guessing everything, right? And, I've talked many times on here about like the whole twin flame piece is literally the thing that has kept me moving forward on the healing process, even when I haven't wanted to, right? And I was kind of I've been thinking about this a lot lately too. Okay, so there is a Snow Patrol song that came out in the past couple years, called The Beginning. And like, it's always really stood out to me, and I listen to it a lot. But like the one line in particular says, I just want to be in love without being loved in return. It's like, I feel like that's kind of my life. And I think the big piece of it is that with the way the world conditions us in general, it's like, there has to be some kind of I don't know, like just the forms of love that exist. Like, if you're sharing things with somebody, then it means that you have to feel a certain way about them or something. And it's like, you can't just be because you needed somebody to talk to and you found yourself talking to them because you just needed to talk, right? And then they take it to mean something, or that it should mean something that it doesn't. I don't know. I've been really frustrated with this all day. The bigger thing with the frustration piece, I mentioned that Wednesday I spent the day with my parents. And it was the nightmare I anticipated it would be. But I was trying to be in a good space. But then the friend inserted the wobble the day before. And even though I stood up for myself and I pushed back and had boundaries and, mentioned that the whole thing was inappropriate, it was still enough of a wobble that when I spend the time with my parents after that, I wasn't in a good space to be doing that, right? And I have to be absolutely mindful of my energy, like to the full extent I can if I'm going to be around my parents, because they latch on to like stuff that shouldn't even be a thing, right? So the thing that's really frustrating is in this situation with my parents as they are, there's no winning. And the only peace that I get while being in this situation is by being away from them. And, that's why I spend a lot of time with my dogs outside of the house as much as possible, or like skating, or whatever else. It's like, I can't be around them. And I mentioned the other day, it's like the point that I'm at with my dad is he's basically dead to me. And it's because, he wants to, like the big thing the other day was when he was so stuck and set in being in his misery and bringing everybody down to his level and trying to make everybody feel like shit because we made him late or whatever. And it's like, that wasn't the situation, but you wouldn't have been able to convince him that otherwise anyway. So, he was kind of being a dick. And when I said anything about it, it was like, it was basically received. The feeling of being around somebody that just really doesn't like you? That's pretty much the experience that I've always had with my parents, right? And they like me when I'm doing what they want, or when I am blindly going along and letting them pull me into their drama and making me feel like shit. But when I set boundaries, they full on they hate me, and there's no, I don't think you can convince me otherwise. That is just flat out what it is with these people. And that's what it was with him, right? So he's bitching about stuff on the drive and being set and being the miserable human that he is. And I just had that moment of thinking, it's like, I am so beyond over this. When I am gone, I am so completely gone, and you're dead to me. Like, I don't care what happens. I don't want to hear about it. I just want to be gone. I want to be done with the situation. I don't want to hear anything else. And for some reason, it's easier for me to have that perspective with him than it is my mom. Which is really, see, that's why I'm not really sure if his is like a narcissism thing. I mean, he's definitely a total misogynistic dickhead. But the narcissism piece, at very least, he enables the bad behavior of my mother and of my grandfather while he was alive. And he would go spend time with my grandparents by himself, which honestly just makes me think that he was kind of trying to get his own supply from the quality time with them before my grandfather passed away. What are you looking at? Hi. Hi. So last night, my mom comes into my room, my office. Like technically it's in her house, so technically she owns the place, but like the boundaries that I've set, she's pissed all over those all week. You know, and it started with the wobble from the friend and then all that other shit. And she's... Oh. I don't even know if I want to continue this one or if I just want to delete it and say fuck it all for today and go do something else. I'm at the point of feeling sketchy about the writing again, because she's imposing herself into my space again. I started with a wobble the other day, and then, I need you to help me, I can't unhook my bra, because she broke her damn arm. She really don't fucking care that she broke her damn arm. Because honestly, it's just literally something to trap me into helping her. Because if I don't do anything to help, then I just look like an asshole. But at the same time, if I go along with the bullshit she's asking me, then she's back in. Yeah, I didn't mean to hit that button. I was actually aiming for the stop button and hit reverse. But it's kind of funny because I just had this thought of, what am I even doing? This is kind of bullshit. Maybe I should just delete this. And no, continue. And then I went to hit stop and hit the flip thing instead. So maybe I just need to continue. Yeah, I'm going to walk away from it for a minute, though. So I paused it to run to the other room for a minute. Then I had another thought. Then I came back and I lost the thought. I think I know what it is. So going back to that piece with talking to people that then take the moment of vulnerability as a I like you kind of a thing, and wanting to share and fixing your trauma or whatever. I think that's a big part of why I, like with Tyler and how I've talked about, I didn't want my sadness to ooze into his life because I thought he was living his dream. So I feel like maybe these situations with these two friends is kind of a way of showing me where that came from. Because when I shared with the guy in high school, then he looked at me like he was all sorts of into me and wanted to fix all the bad things for me and all this crap. It's like, I don't want that. It's like, it's like I wasn't interested in him like that too. So it's like, I don't know, but it always bothered me. But maybe that's like partly where that whole idea came from, with not wanting my sadness to contaminate his life. and then the situation with the guy this week, it's like, I feel like it was because we had a common piece from our past, but it should have it was like I don't know, just common ground, but then it has to become this other thing. It's like, why does it have to become the other thing? It doesn't have to become the other thing. Why is that like the only option? Is also seeing why it's been easier for me to do the YouTube thing than the actually having people that I speak to in the real world, right? Or real world. But even that's kind of like a weird sort of thing, because like I'm finding when I talk about the heavier layers of things like this topic around the other group, then there are some people that have this sort of idea that that don't want to hear it, right? So it's like, it's okay to be in this space if you have all these positive, uplifting, God sign things, but if you share the other stuff that's maybe not so rosy, then they don't want any part of that, because, well, but that feels like that whole, I don't know, toxic positivity, where you kind of end up being in somewhat of a denial of the not so good things in favor of the good things. I feel like one of the biggest parts of my whole journey is sharing my story so that others can maybe find something useful in it and find something they can connect to in their own stories. But then if I can't, I don't know. I just really don't know today. I talked about the boundaries thing again yesterday with like the physical space, like with how, anywhere I have started to sit regularly, that, then that becomes the space my dad moves to, because I'm not doing my part in cleaning up after his old ass, like I was raised to do. My brother and I were raised specifically to take care of our parents when they got to the ages they are now, so they didn't have to do it. So we were supposed to be bound to them like they were bound to their parents and their parents before them and all that bullshit. And since we started setting boundaries and pushing back and not doing that, it's definitely coming out in other ways, like the stuff, and I've purged a massive amount of stuff since I've been here. But at the same time, I always hit that point where I kind of hit the wall and can't go any further. And then what I noticed was, because my stuff and whatever is still standing feels like it's a sort of barrier from their stuff imposing into my space, right? And I've talked about how, my dad literally, if there's a spot that I am sitting in, it becomes his spot. So the spot that I was sitting in when my mom and I used to watch like movies and stuff together back before I realized I needed to set boundaries with my mother, right? So I was always sitting in this one spot on the couch, just like by the bathroom. It's because that's where the table was. That's where I put my water, all that stuff. Once he retired, that was his spot. But he plops, so he broke it, and he doesn't clean up after himself very well. It smells like pee because he can't get up and move fast enough to when he realizes he's got to go or whatever. And, then there's an incident on that end, and then, just fucking pee on the bathroom floor and leave it for somebody else to clean up. Like, I've stopped using that bathroom in that room because anytime I went in there, if I didn't have shoes on, that's fucking nasty. If I do have shoes on, that's fucking nasty. I don't want to be stepping in this pee all the time, right? So I stopped going in there. I was sitting on that one spot in the couch, and now, like, I don't ever sit there because it's broken and it's gross. So I started sitting on this other couch, closer to the fireplace, and also TV, because TV is on the fireplace. And when I started doing that, next time I go in there, he started to sit there. That's now his go-to spot. Unless I move everything off of the leather oversized armchair and sit there. If I forget to put stuff back, he will start sitting there. And he's done it before. And then I returned everything. Like, I realized he was sitting there because I forgot to put the blankets back onto the chair. So I put the blankets back onto the chair. And it stopped him sitting there. But, it's the same thing at the kitchen table. He has always, my entire life, sat at the end of the table in front of the microwave. When we're having dinner in there, I usually sit in the spot to his right? So it's like the spot, and my mom sits on that side too, mainly because it's the side that's facing the TV, and we used to watch, like, I don't know, some TV shows. We had some stuff that we were watching back before I realized I needed to spend less time with them. And yeah, so I always sat there. Then when my mom started watching Gracie, she started sitting in that seat. And when she was little, and she's autistic, so when something is her spot, it's her spot, leave it the fuck alone. And I don't know, I think it was probably a combination of him doing that same energetic bullshit to her as well as me, but now he only ever wants to sit in that spot. And part of it is because they let the table get all trashed up with their shit. He'll leave, like, freaking candy wrappers or empty coffee cups, or, like, the butter knife that he used to spread the butter on his bagel. He'll just leave that stuff dirty on the table. My mom's stuff's just everywhere. And it's like, I don't even bother anymore, because usually the way that it got cleaned up was I would put it all in a box when somebody was there, and then later they'd have to go through the box. But then they don't keep it clean. Then their shit just keeps spreading like that, right? So I realized that they were literally, it's this energetic boundary. So at least my stuff, it might be all over the place and cluttered and a hot mess, but at least it's mine, and I know it's mine. And I've talked about that, like, with the bathroom, and how I have a really hard time cleaning the bathroom here, and it goes back to that. If I clean it as much as I would like to, they're going to nasty it up. They're going to start taking advantage of the fact that at least one bathroom's getting cleaned. So if I don't clean it up, then they're going to, just talk about me like I'm a slob or whatever. But it's like, it's literally because at least I know if it's my dirt, then it's my dirt, and it's not theirs creeping in to try to take over my space. And then I talked about how, I went to get my skate stuff together the other night, and my dad had to shit on my stuff. It's not the first time he's done it, because usually he'll put his blanket that he sits with in the recliner in there on my skate stuff, which is the other room, right? So, so he was putting his blanket there, and then the other day put his damn jacket on my skate stuff and his fucking Trump hat. And I just pitched it. And I know where the hat is. I don't give a shit. I'm not picking it up. And, I put the jacket on the chair, so now the dog's laying on it, which, I mean, since we can't hang it up in the closet or put it on one of the boxes that doesn't have stuff on it, who cares? You know, and there ended up being this pile of stuff that I had some sweatshirts in. I know what it was. I moved the dog crates to the other side of the living room because I had put up the Christmas tree, God forbid, and needed to change the way the room was rearranged. And it ended up with the mound of jackets and sweatshirts getting moved from one spot over to another spot. Well, then at some point, my dad comes along and throws the whole stack on the couch, which some of it was mine, some of it was his, and some of it was my mom's. You know, and it was just kind of like, he just threw it there. Then, like, the dogs would lay on it, and then, you know, Taz, the way he gets off of furniture, he like, takes everything with him, so then it's just laying on the floor. So it's like, I got my shit out of it, and, you know, I washed all of my shit and put it up, but then still, this other stuff's just, like, there in the way, right? And since I'm not doing anything about it, it's like their shit is just continuing to invade my space. And when my mom came in the other day with that bullshit of needing help to unhook her bra because she just couldn't do it with one-handed, it's like, she has a husband. Why was she coming to me? And I know why she was coming to me. She was coming to me because she wanted space, or she wanted access to my space. You know, so then she comes in and just after I help her out, she just stands there next to me. And then comments on the pleasant atmosphere or whatever, however it was she said that. Oh, pleasant ambiance. And it's like, I know, it's real nice when you're not in it. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. But that was just enough for the little toxic vampire to get access to my space, right? I didn't specifically say no, she couldn't come in, or I didn't go to the door to help her or whatever. So she came into my space. So yesterday, she comes right into my space and stands there right next to me to hand me this damn turtle and says, put this outside for me tomorrow. It's like, and just leaves it on my desk. That is the bullshit she's trying to do. That is the bullshit that has been the ongoing issue with why I can't ever feel like I'm getting ahead on anything. Because when I do try, then they start creeping in and like invading my space even further, right? And if I, you know, when I was helping them on their stuff, they were just being enabled. So like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? So it's like, that's literally why I've not made any noticeable, I guess, like, as far as what's going on in here, as far as getting out of here, I don't know. Like, that's been the big snag. And, you know, of course, I'm supposed to feel like shit if I'm worried about my stuff and not theirs, too. You know, like the whole freaking kitchen table. Her computer's in her spot. And then it's basically her desk as well. So she got all this shit up in there. And it's spreading all the way down the table. If you're lucky, you can get one or two seats to, while like you're trying to eat something. It's usually more trouble than it's worth. So usually I just get food and go into the office and eat by myself. And I'd rather be by myself, honestly. I just... think it was a Richard Grannon video I was watching yesterday where he was talking about the little things that let them get their hooks back in. It's like, this whole fucking week. On the other hand, I don't have to help them the next time. Tell them to call a fucking Uber if they need to get over to the fucking eye doctor appointment. You know, and they're going to have to. My dad has to have something redone in his eye. He's got some kind of issue, which who the fuck cares? And yeah, they're going to try to rope me in on that. But since my mom doesn't need to have it again, it should be okay. Well, hers will be the issue of, can't she drive then? Because she's not supposed to be driving anywhere because, you know, her brain glitches and she doesn't. She hit a freaking car at the drive-thru the other day, so she's not supposed to be driving. So, of course. And I just don't care. And this is literally why I don't care. Because it doesn't matter what causes the wobble. If there's a little bit of wobble, then they're happy because, you know, that's when I fuck myself over. It really aggravated, like, when I really spend some time with some of this stuff, too. Because okay, because, like, when I talk about all the stuff that I refuse to do to help out around here, it just sounds, or makes me feel like I just sound like, you know, I'm having, like, a fucking temper tantrum or something. But it's literally because this is why I haven't been able to do anything worthwhile in my life, right? And yeah. Now that I'm figuring it out and having to push back, everybody wants to think that I'm the bad guy because I'm not doing my role. I'm not stepping into what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, like, okay, on Easter when my mom fell and broke her wrist, I was sitting out on the back deck. And when I came through and was getting ready to leave, my uncle tried to stop me to tell me what was going on with my mom, and I just didn't care. And of course, they noticed that I didn't really care, and they, you know, of course, they have their concern with why I'm not doing my part now. You know, and I just had this moment of thinking, so what's the holdup? Why am I still here? Like, what is it that I'm standing in the way of myself on getting the hell up out of here? You know, and at this moment of thinking, do I need to, like, say some shit to push back, right? And, you know, I just imagine, like, saying anything at, like, a family get together, and it's like it would not matter what I had to say. Every single one of them has been buying into the toxic family bullshit for long enough that I would be the problem. I have many times that I have almost called my grandma out and said something about her knowing that my mom was abusive and not ever doing anything about it. You know, but it's like, what's that going to gain? Because then, you know, my family's going to feel like I'm the one imploding and my mom gets that supply too, right? So if I look like I'm crazy and having a meltdown, then she wins, right? So we're back to that bullshit. And yes, now she feels like she has some kind of business going into my space. Which, she is the reason that I put a lock screen on my computer again. But, I leave my journal in there and my fucking notebook that I've been writing in. So it's like, how long is it before she feels she has some sort of right to be snooping around in that shit? So now I'm back at this point of now I don't want to do anything again. But no, that's not realistically an option either. I've kind of been feeling here lately like it's like my brother's a whole another situation in and of itself, because if you want the honest truth, I'm confident his wife is just like our mother, right? So, and I've seen it in action so many times, and of course, when I've talked about before how I don't know if it was when I was just setting boundaries on this whole situation or if there was something else along the way, but it's like energetically somehow along the line I got the impression from him that this isn't the lifetime that he wakes up, if you will. And I think that his wife is a big part of why that won't happen. If I mean, like, he could absolutely change that if he so chooses. But, like, he's told me that at a time when he got really close to wanting to separate from his wife, then our dad was right there to say there is no honor in divorce. And I think that was pretty much what sealed the deal on him being forever bound to that connection. But, of course, now he's got a kid, so he's not interested in anything that's going to run the risk of losing his kid. But also, from that standpoint, it's like I feel like I need to not be telling him as much right now again either. And since he's here staying in their house while they're trying to sell it before they can close on this other house and move in there. It's like he's kind of scattered in and of himself, and then, of course, his wife's gone, and then our parents are toxic, but then, like, today, I had to make sure, because he just starts looking around. She heard the dog barking, but yeah, like today, he had to get out of the house and get the dogs out of the house because they were showing it to somebody, because of course they're trying to sell the house. And so he comes over here with his dogs, and since he was over here with his dogs, they sat in the car because he didn't have anywhere else to go with them. And I went out there and talked to him, and I was like, well, I said I was getting ready to take mine on a walk anyway, so maybe you just hang out inside, and let the dogs sniff around and check this place out, because neither of them have ever been over here. So they did that. So he and his dogs and the kid were here for a while. And yeah, like I was going to do a video elsewhere, and we walked over at the cemetery, and then we went to the park, and it's like, just kind of try somewhere else, and I mean, from the cemetery, because I had to go to the bathroom, so we went to CVS, and I ran in real quick, and then we went to the park, and it was way too busy, so then I was thinking, screw it, we'll go to Greenfield, and go to Firehouse. So I got food and shared with the dogs, and they were thrilled. So they don't get much of it. They get mostly bread, but they had a taste of the meat, and they really liked that too. So, but yeah, we did that, and then I went in over at Bath and Body Works and killed some time in there, since I found out they were having some sales on things, and I needed a new wallflower thing to plug into my bathroom. One nice thing is, with my bathroom where it is, when I plug an air freshener in there, you can usually smell it all down the hall and in my room and all that stuff, so it doesn't smell as bad as the house normally does. So that's helpful. But I gotta blow my nose. Hold on. Just saw that I had a text message, and it's from my dad asking if I'm at the house. And it was from like 30 minutes ago. And yes, I'm at the house, but I don't have any interest in communicating with him at this point in time. It's probably going to be to catch the dog, because he likes to just send her outside and let her walk on over by herself. And she's 13, so if she's motivated to come over here, she'll do it, but also she's easily distracted, so if I have to go catch her, it's usually I have to go mostly over there to bring her back, and I really don't want to. I mean, not for the dog's sake, I just don't want to do anything else that's helping them in any kind of way, because that keeps fucking me over. You know, it's really frustrating, because, like, you know, like the deal with the friends. Like, now I feel like I can't talk to anybody, and kind of just don't want to talk to anybody. So I just sit here and talk to my phone. What's happening with this hair situation still? Yesterday's bangs are still bad. I think some of them need trimmed up, if I'm gonna have them. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of thinking about fixing my shelves that I never got around to. I was threatening there for a while that I was going to, if I did nothing else, I was going to clean off the shelf and reorganize my plants over by the window and whatnot. And it's like, I have not done that. And that was about a month ago. Yeah, but I've been feeling a lot here lately too, like I'm probably going to pull back from the Wednesday night class a bit as well. And I feel like that's the big thing. It's like, that's the safest group of people, but at the same time, still not completely. So since I'm kind of in this in-between space and not really, I'm nowhere close to the physical scenario that I'm supposed to be in one of these days. I just got to figure out how to make that happen and get there. But this space sucks. You know, I saw something, I think the Pages Abundance Alchemist had something posted talking about when you're getting ready to level up and the 5 tests that come along before that. And one of them was something to see if you revert back to living from the wound. So like if I would have gone along with a friend, you know, and the thought that immediately came to mind when that whole situation came up was, but what if this is the best possibility? I was like, it's not. And first off, well, not first off, but high up there is still fucking married, big no-no. And it doesn't matter if they've thought about getting divorced, they haven't actually followed through with it. So none of that is okay. But then to make me, to be enough to have the wobble, and I still had to think about the scenario of, what if this is the best possibility? What if there is nothing better than this? Which goes along to something I was watching, a thing Shetty was talking about with how we've been so conditioned to be terrified of being alone. He was talking about, there's two different forms of being alone. There's lonely, and then there's solitude. It's like, I feel like most of the time I'm pretty content in my solitude. Like, I have no problem going into the store buying by myself and doing whatever I need to do. I have no problem going to a restaurant by myself and eating by myself. Does not bother me. And I think the big part on that end is like this whole piece with the toxic family, and I just want something, I would rather spend time with myself than spend time with my family. Because they make me feel like shit. But then I do have the concern of, how am I going to make that transition if I do find people that I'm meant to be, my soul family, if you will, the ones that I'm meant to have in my life, when they come around, it's like, how am I going to be able to hold the kind of space for that kind of connection? Especially when I would much rather spend time by myself than doing anything with anybody right now. Oh, another thing. My mom's one friend last night, the one that goes right along with her bullshit, her best friend since high school and all this stuff, she sent me a message last night and asked about how my mom and dad's surgery had gone on Wednesday and what my mom's doctor had said, or something about that, about her wrist, because she got an x-ray the other day. She said, how did the appointments go? And I just said fine and left it at that. And she said, okay, I was wondering. Like, I don't know what exactly you're wondering about, and if I'm supposed to, I think that's the big thing, is I feel like she's asking me because my mom's told her shit about me, so she's trying to get the information and kind of be a sort of go-between in a way, and I don't know if she would consider it that. But it's like, anytime I have anything posted on Facebook or whatever, it's like she usually has a response for it. And I feel like she's trying to check in with me and all these things. And it's like, if you're trying to check in with me so you can pull me back into my mom's bullshit, I am so not interested. And the friend that I've been doing yard work for here lately, it's like, she knows a bit about the whole situation with my mom, but at the same time, she's slowed down on how much she wants to talk to my mom as well because of the negativity, but at the same time, she still talks to her. She was on the phone with her the other night, so then it's like, what can I tell her even? It's like, the stuff that I've said, I don't think she's gonna tell my mom that I'm trying to get out of here. I'm trying to find the best way out of here for me. But she knows that I'm trying to disconnect. At least, she knows that I'm upset on various things. She knows that my brother and I are sick of the negativity. She knows that my mom's kind of ridiculous over her dad dying, and it still comes up constantly because that was what she was raised to do. But she's one that I'm not really sure if I'll be able to have any kind of connection with her after I'm done here either. Of course, I've known her since I was 8. Because that's when they moved to town and my mom started babysitting her daughter. I talked the other day on here about how her daughter was the one that was my best friend for a lot of years growing up, but at the same time, there was still an extensive, well, I don't know how extensive, there was still a span of time I wasn't very nice to her. And in hindsight, I was thinking about that the other day, it's like, I feel like it's one of those situations where she was really nice, and so I kind of resented her for that and kind of lashed out at her because of that. But then when I was thinking back on it, been thinking about this a lot lately too. It's like, I feel like, and I told the friend the other day, it's like, because I could tell that she was a nice person, and it was enough so that I lashed out at her, like the fact that I could still see that in her was because it existed in me as well. But everything in my life kept telling me that it was not safe to be a nice person or to be vulnerable or anything, and God, that's continued. So it's like when I was mean to her, it was because my life didn't let me be that way, right? I couldn't it wasn't safe for me to be the kind of person that she was. Which, even though I saw it in her, meant it was somehow still in me too. But I struggled with that, and of course, never saw it as much or as such, but I don't know. Kind of fucking a hot mess of a video. But it's kind of been a hot mess of a week, so it is what it is, I guess. Yeah, but like, I started writing in this notebook a couple days, and then it's like, now that she's in my space again, it's like, is that safe? Is she not going to, like, start snooping in my business then, too? That's, okay, I did have a thought today, since she's coming into my space and just leaving stuff there now. Oh, and I've talked before about how she made a big deal a while back about how she needed some of my drawers. Because I have all this furniture, and she only has, she has a dresser in her room and the closet that she shares with my dad, which is not a huge closet, but still. But she started talking about needing some of my space because I have this chest of drawers in here. I have 2 nightstands, and then I have my dresser, and then there's another dresser in the office, which I used to have some clothes in it, but then then I moved like my extra blankets and stuff in there because I figured I would rather have my clothes in the space I sleep in, because then first thing when I get up, first thing I do is find clothes, right? So I'd rather have it where I could get to those easier and not have to go in the other room first. But then I was thinking earlier, it's like, she made that comment about wanting access to a dresser or something. Maybe the answer is to move it out of my space, and then she can have it. But of course it can't go in her room because there's no room. She's got wall-to-wall furniture, and for what it's worth on that end, for some reason, my bedroom which is this room that I'm in now, is bigger than theirs. Not hugely. It's like inches on one side, but still, it's like, that's kind of a shitty setup for a house if you get the master bedroom smaller than the next bedroom. I mean, but it's got a bathroom attached to it, so there's that, but honestly, I don't know. I don't know if they've talked about taking the wall out between the rooms whenever I do move out. I don't know that they do that. But there's also the possibility that they probably realize they really hate each other when nobody else is around to deflect any of their rage from one another, or their shared loathing of me or whatever. Since I wouldn't be the shared focus if I wasn't here, then there's a potential. I don't know that they'd be able to stay together, honestly. I think they'll really realize how much they don't like each other, which I've always known. They'll start spouting off with, okay, my mom's usually the one spouting off about, I just knew he was my soulmate, and it's like, bullshit. I easily call bullshit on that. It's like, I have never met, well, yeah, my grandparents. It's like they just bicker nonstop. It's like, you don't like each other. You're together because whatever karmic connections they got that have kept them bound together. And now that me and my brother aren't doing our parts and deflecting their bullshit from each other, they bicker a lot more. And I don't care. I'm just ready to get out of the middle of it. But yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. Since she started to move into my office space, maybe the answer is to move the dresser out and then just give her all access to that one, or move all her shit out of that closet and, have it so my shit is only in these two rooms. But then the question will be, how possible is that? Which I do have, I don't know. I think I could probably make it work if I had that closet as well. Put all the shit in the dresser and move my stuff from the dresser into the closet. I don't know. The dog crates won't fit in my space. All I really need is Taz's, because he's the one that's kind of a chump. But he's been good today. Just pet him on the butt because he's right here. I get it. Anyway, I think I'm just going to wrap this one up because why not? It's over an hour. I didn't think it was 5:55, and I didn't think that I was going to make it this far, but without deleting it. I was really close to deleting it. Oh, these are fun. Since everything else has kind of gone to crap, here's my little raptor earrings with the free puppies on the box. Back to that Eklektik shelf page. I like her stuff. But yeah, I guess I'll wrap it up and maybe do some work, because this is annoying me already. It's annoying me again. Let's go that route. And yeah. I don't have any horror movies, so I guess I'll have to see if there's any on Netflix that I want to watch or find something else. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it. So, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.